The Democratic Party is corrupt. Let me say that again. The Democratic Party is corrupt. I'm going to play a clip from MSNBC this morning, and about 10 minutes or so is MSNBC showing their true colors and which side they're coming down on, and there's no doubt in my mind that they're in the tank for Hillary Clinton. Nina Turner was on with Tamron Hall for approximately 10 to 12 minutes this morning, and you need to note the accusatory and attacking tone of Tamron Hall, and then Tamron Hall interviews the head of the Democratic Party, the state head of the Democratic Party in Nevada, and you need to check the tone of the questions and the amount of time that Tamron Hall spends with her. I'm going to start the clip and I'm going to stop it at the appropriate times.
Requesting a recount at his rally in Carson, California last night, Sanders also defiantly slammed the Democratic Party in the wake of the chaos that erupted in Nevada over the weekend. Sanders supporters disrupted the convention by booing and chanting. They're also accused of vandalism and even making death threats after claiming the convention rules were unfair and the process rigged. While Sanders again condemned any violence, he issued this warning last night.
Let me also say a word to the leadership of the Democratic Party. It can do the right thing and open its doors and welcome into the party people who are prepared to fight for real economic and social change. The other option for the Democratic Party, which I see as a very sad and tragic option, is to choose to maintain its status quo structure, remain dependent on big money campaign contributions, and be a party with limited participation and limited energy.
Meantime, Democratic Party leaders are calling the Sanders campaign, quote, dishonest, and saying that Sanders has failed to adequately denounce the threats of physical violence.
There is a way to deal with frustration over process, but the fact that the Sanders campaign has issued a but in between condemnation of violence and frustration over the process seems to excuse their supporters' actions, which is unacceptable.
See, now this bitch, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, is full of shit. So, now, true words do matter, and the word but most of the time, if not always, negates everything said in front of it. But then, specifically what he said behind it mattered as well. But she's got a lot of goddamn nerve condemning somebody when she has been in the fucking Clinton camp since day one. Now, in my opinion, the Democratic Party is corrupt. What they need to do is, number one, get rid of all these super goddamn delegates, because they are only a function of the Democratic Party establishment. That's number one. Number two, they need to get rid of all these caucuses, because that just gives the Democratic leadership the ability to rig shit. They need to go specifically to primaries where it's one person, one vote. And number three, what they need to do is they need to have totally open primaries, because they are looking for voters that are going to vote for them in the general election. And the general election is not closed to independents or people from the other party that want to cross over and vote for you. So if you want to be completely open and transparent, get rid of the goddamn super delegates, again, which are a function of the Democratic establishment. Number two, get rid of all these caucuses so you don't have to have these state-run conventions that can be rigged. Number three, open up the primaries to all voters, either, both Democrat, Republican, and Independent. And once a person wins a certain percentage of delegates based on the election, you should then allow the person who won the delegates to choose his own delegates and not have to turn around and go to a state convention in order to pick delegates, which again allows rigging of the system.
Joining me live now, Bernie Sanders surrogate, former Ohio State Senator Nina Turner, who was at the Nevada State Democratic Convention to represent Senator Sanders. Thank you again for joining us.
Nina Turner is Tamron Hall's worst nightmare because Nina Turner always has her shit together, and every time Tamron Hall attacks her, she always is able to back Tamron Hall up.
Before we go over what happened in Nevada and what you witnessed there, how do you describe last night's split victory and the tone largely that Debbie Wasserman Schultz has taken issue with regarding the Sanders statement?
Well, I'm certainly proud of both Kentucky and Oregon. Senator Sanders competed very well in Kentucky, as you laid out the stats, and he took Oregon just flat out. In terms of the chairwoman of the DNC, I'm a little miffed. I really can't understand her tone towards Senator Sanders. And I know the chairwoman, so I don't know what's going on between her and Senator Sanders. But as the leader of the DNC, the chairwoman has an obligation to first understand and then seek to be understood. And what I mean by that is that there is no doubt that in this country, both on the left and the right, but let's just deal with the Democrats right now, that there is a tension building, that people are not going to just sit back and accept business as usual. And the same Sanders supporters that she now wants to condemn and others want to condemn, lumping all of Senator Sanders supporters into one bunch is not very helpful moving forward, especially if Secretary Clinton is the nominee. Those will be the same voters, Tamron, that they will be begging to vote in the general election. So we got to come to grips here and come together here on tone all the way around.
But when you say lumping the Sanders supporters into one bunch, I want to play with Angie Morelli. She's a Bernie Sanders delegate. She was on the floor, organizer. Let's play what she said happened in Nevada.
This is what happened, is we had 4,000 of the most passionate people in this valley who got in a room together, and you put them in this confined space for 15 plus hours, and who had little access to food, and had 3 bars outside of the convention center that were put there specifically for us. And I don't know in what other situation where that wouldn't have created high emotions.
What do you make of that description? To me, that sounds, at least that snippet of it, has little to do with democracy, opening doors as Bernie Sanders, and it seems that some people were on edge, as she said, hungry and had too much to drink, maybe.
Okay, let's stop that one right there. They seem to want to make it appear that it was the Bernie Sanders supporters that were the only ones utilizing whatever bars were available. So unless they can point to signs that said bars for Sanders supporters only, that's a bunch of bullshit. The Clinton supporters were probably using those bars just as much as the Sanders voters were. So we need to get that piece out of the way. But Tamron's going to make it seem like it was only the Sanders supporters that were consuming alcohol. And Nina Turner's going to come back at her on that one.
I mean, listen, I didn't see people consuming alcohol, but Tamron, let's face it, we were in Las Vegas. I was in that room for 8 hours, and so I won't pretend to sit here to say I know every little thing that went on, but unlike other folks who are commentating on this, I was actually in the room. The caucus process does need to be reformed. It is a lot to ask people to be in one space all day long, but I will tell you this, the people that came there, whether they support the secretary or they support the senator, they came there to do business. This was not a rally. These were delegates, and the way that the chairwoman handled, especially, I was in there, Tamron, for the vote, the voice vote over the rules, and it was clear that the noes had it, that they did not want to accept the temporary rules, yet the chairwoman ruled in favor of the yeses, and not only did she do that, she stifled debate. And so, of course, emotions were flying high in that room, but I did not see any incidences of violence in that room, Tamron. If we want to talk about violence, and Senator Sanders has condemned any threat. Anybody that made that threat, they are wrong all day long. We don't even know if that was really Senator Sanders supporters, but whoever did it, it's a cowardice. You should not threaten the chairwoman of Nevada. You shouldn't threaten her family. That cannot be acceptable. But what I didn't hear the media talk about is when Senator Sanders' campaign office was shot up earlier in the process. Nobody was talking about that. That's more than a threat. I didn't hear the chairwoman talking about that. But now you want to talk about this kind of this only. So this is a holistic process that we really have to deal with. The threats are not acceptable. Senator Sanders said that, but people are not dealing with respectable politics right now. What I saw in that room were people who were crying out for fairness, Tamron, and not only that, I spoke right after Senator Barbara Boxer, Representative Lucy Flores, and I both were asked by the chairwoman to try to bring down the temperatures in the room. And you know what? We did just that. We could have said storm the torpedoes, but we did not do that. And if people watch my speech, by the time I was done, that room was calm, so much so that even supporters of Secretary Clinton was standing up by the end. That's what leadership does.
Let me ask you, and we will have on the state Democratic chairwoman, Roberta Lang, who said she received those threats and was also present. But I just...
All right, so let's stop there. Remember this portion, because when Tamron gets Roberta Lang on, she's not going to question him whatsoever about what went on as far as the process was concerned. So she's going to softball her. But anyway, let's continue, and I'll remind you when she does that portion of the interview. And at this point, she's been talking to Nina Turner for approximately 6 minutes.
To some of the things that you said, Nina, regarding the system perhaps being rigged or as it is designed somehow unfair. And I have to be honest with you, a lot of what you just said, including the pivot to the media not covering this instead of that, sounded very familiar to me. It sounds like a lot of things we heard from Donald Trump when he thought he wasn't going to secure the nomination. A lot of things that Katrina Pearson, his spokeswoman, had come on this show and said regarding criticism of the tone of some of Trump's supporters and the notion that because he wasn't winning or he was worried he wouldn't secure the nomination, that the process was rigged, a process that was in place before Senator Sanders decided to run, or the process that he agreed to upon running.
Well, Tamron, I mean, that doesn't mean that the process shouldn't be changed. I think we're confusing issues here. The fact of the matter is that Senator Sanders' office was shot up. Okay, shot up. Not just voicemail, but shot up. There is a responsibility to disavow that kind of behavior as well. That's all I'm saying. There is no way in the world that...
Do you know who shot up the office? As you just said, you don't know if it's the Bernie Sanders supporters who were carrying out some of the violence in Nevada. Are you implying that this was somehow...
Okay, let's stop it right there. See, that's a bullshit query. Number one, no, she doesn't know who shot up the office. Number two, she doesn't know who made the phone call threatening Roberta Lang. So if you're going to compare things, compare them evenly. But she's trying to make it seem like the office being shot up was bullshit, whereas the recordings threatening Roberta Lang were totally legit. No, compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. If you don't know who made the phone calls, you can't. I in my heart believe it's probably Bernie Sanders supporters that made the phone call. So let's just get that straight. But you don't know for sure. At the same time, you don't know, okay, for sure that it was Clinton supporters that shot up Sanders' office. But in my heart, I believe that's the case.
You bring it up, so I'm asking you, who do you think is responsible then? Was it ignored? Was it not investigated? You've thrown it out there, so I'm going to hand it back to you to explain who you believe is responsible. Did the police drop the ball? Are they not properly investigating it? Were there charges? Did the Senator Sanders campaign office file complaints there? What happened?
What violence, though, Tamron? People want to keep talking about that there was violence at that convention. What violence? Now, those threats are totally unacceptable.
So there were chairs thrown, or in the video that shows
some of
that?
Tamron, all I can do is speak to how when I was in the room,
So then you can't say that there was no violence. You're saying you didn't. There's a difference. There's a difference in saying that you didn't witness it and that it just did not happen.
What I am saying, I'm only going to speak to what happened when I was in the room now, but there is video footage of someone picking up a chair, and it's online right now, and a gentleman walking by that person, putting that chair down and hugging it out. All I'm saying is that the threats to the chairwoman were absolutely wrong, totally unacceptable. Those folks should come forward and they should apologize. But in terms of violence happening in that room, it's a difference between people being treated unfairly and voicing their opinion about being treated unfairly, or in terms of what happened in that room, and now all of a sudden to have people just overlay over the entire convention that Senator Sanders supporters somehow have a propensity for violence. Quite frankly, I see that as Nevada Democratic Party just covering their behind, because they did not carry out in that room. That room was not handled properly. What was going on in that room was not handled properly, Tamron.
All right, and this is something that she raised, and a legitimate reporter or moderator would turn around and take the same question that Nina Turner just posed and pose it to Roberta Lang, but Tamron Hall, it just is not going to do it.
This shooting that you brought up this hour, reading one of the reports from the Weekly Standard, this came after Bernie Sanders released a statement on Tuesday saying that these shots were fired at his Nevada campaign office and that an apartment housing complex that his campaign staff lived in was broken into and ransacked. Senator Sanders made this statement in response, as you know, to criticism made against his campaign organization. I have the full statement here now. The police have investigated this. They did not find, according to what I have here, and this may not be the most updated, but I'm being told it is, that there was no bullet found. And if an office is shot up, it's at least right here, this information, and I will prepare to correct it if this is what I have that's wrong, was not found. And so what do you know differently than I'm reporting now or that I've been provided?
So we can really believe police investigations. Tamron Hall, are you really going to try to hang your hat on a police investigation that may or may not, and again, may or may not have been biased, okay? Because we all know that police investigations are 100% reliable. But let's get to Nina Turner's response. And unless you believe she's a liar, I would rather take her word, being that she was an eyewitness to the bullet holes that were in the campaign center.
I mean, I went to that office. I saw the bullet holes in the glass in the window. So I'm not sure what the police found, but the bottom line is this: Senator Sanders did not come out. He did not say, he didn't blame that on Secretary Clinton or her folks or her supporters. He did not do that. And so what I am saying here is that Senator Sanders and his supporters are being unfairly maligned. People at that convention are grown, Tamara. They're not children. Senator Sanders is not their father.
Well, that could be said about Donald Trump. I mean, even...
Well, no. Okay, so now here we go. The difference is that Senator Sanders never called for any violence whatsoever, whereas Donald Trump has. He's called for people to punch people in the face and to take care of them, and various other statements he's made to whip his crowd up against any of the protesters that have appeared at his rallies. So, no, you're trying to mix apples and oranges again. Trump has called for violence, and there are plenty of videos out there to confirm that. Find me one video where Bernie Sanders has called for his people to be violent in any way, shape, manner, or form.
His rhetoric certainly does not match anything we've heard from Bernie Sanders, not even close.
Not at all.
There were some at the time, and you and I both know, who said, well, these are individuals who were acting out. Senator Sanders has not been accused of any incendiary comments like Donald Trump, but the pivot to people are grown and you can't be responsible. Let's talk more maturely, though, about the party and the unity of the party, whether Senator Sanders is going to fight it out to the very end, which is certainly his choice, and that is the route he is going. The potential problem with party unity, if he somehow becomes the nominee, or if Hillary Clinton becomes the nominee, how do these sides come together? At some point, someone will be the presumptive nominee of the party.
Well, that's true, Tamron, but everybody has a responsibility. Senator Sanders has been saying from the beginning all along, we can go back and roll the tape, even before the incident in Nevada happened, which I do agree with our campaign manager, Jeff Weaver, that this is an isolated incident with one party. But people have been conducting themselves with the utmost of respect. But just because people voice their disappointment with the process does not make them violent. Now, in terms of the party coming together, there's responsibilities on all sides. But folks are not, this is a disruption election on the left and the right. And when I say disrupted, but people are not, Tamron, just going to simply roll over the way that some leaders think. They're going to have to earn and win over these folks.
But what about the votes that Hillary Clinton has earned? I mean, there seems to be a negating of the fact.
Okay, yeah, but see, the votes that she's earned are people that are supporting her. We're talking about the votes that she didn't earn, which i.e. are the Bernie Sanders voters. She has to earn their support. And Tamron Hall basically is saying that these people should roll over and come into the Clinton camp, and that's a bunch of bullshit.
It comes to that. When Bernie Sanders, and I'll specifically ask you, when he says have an open system and that it is not fair, how do you open the system when you decided this is the game of football and now you want to change it to soccer? The rules have been in place. The game is on. You're in the last inning. If I can use another sports analogy, I might fall out of this chair. But you're in the last inning. What about the votes that Hillary Clinton earned? And how then at this point do you open it in a way that Senator Sanders would agree to? I'm curious of the specifics here beyond the rhetoric. We can use 1,000 words, but what do you mean open, and what about Hillary Clinton's votes?
I mean, what about her votes? She earned certain votes, and he's earned certain votes.
Does she have more votes than he has?
Well, it's obvious she had more people
Is she
that
leading
voted
the
for her. But the process is not over, Tamron.
It is not. I'm asking you, though, where things stand right now and where the math is right now.
But see, this is not just about math, and I think that's what's missing in this entire debate. If we distill this down
Senator
to
Sanders
only
run as an
math,
independent? Should he now, at this point, because it appears from your passions, his supporters' passions, and some of those who've said never Hillary, are there discussions behind the scenes if the math doesn't matter to you?
It would be nice if Tamron Hall would let Nina Turner try to answer a question before she cuts her off and jumps into another question. And she does that a lot with somebody that she disagrees with.
It appears the math will be on her side. Is the campaign considering Senator Sanders running as an independent?
Now, Tamron, I never said the math didn't matter. I just said this race is bigger than that. People really care about their
future. So if it's bigger than math, is it now time for the campaign to consider Senator Sanders running as an independent if it's bigger than the math and it's more about a movement, a message, and a so-called rigged system? Well, is the solution an independent run?
That's up to Senator Sanders. He has never
What do you say? What do you believe?
No, it's his, Tamron, I'm not on the ballot. It is his decision. But what I will say is this, is that people are hurting in this nation and they're looking for leadership that will stand up no matter what. And Senator Sanders has proven that he is that kind of leader, going up against Wall Street, talking about universal health care, talking about raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour to lift people in this country. And that, Tamron, is what is attracting folks to Senator Sanders. And there are some people who are attracted to him who don't have a party loyalty necessarily. It really is about him and his movement
so
and
if
his
that's
mission.
the case, if there are some who don't have a party loyalty, and I'm not saying you're one of those, but
I've been a lifelong Democrat, Tamron. I know they want to try.
That doesn't mean you have to vote for the Democratic nominee if it's Hillary Clinton. So I'll ask you, with the message that you believe is not in play, would you vote for Hillary Clinton if she's the nominee?
I'm going to say what I've said every time somebody has asked me that question, that as long as the candidate that I am supporting, and that's Senator Bernie Sanders, is in this race, I'm not making a decision on that. I want him to be the nominee to become the next president of the United States of America. So I'm not even there yet. We will see what happens in July.
I think that was a fair answer 3 months ago. I'm going to say I don't think it's one now, but I'm going to be the first to ask you. I'll let you pivot on it. All right. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it.
Not a pivot.
All right. Let's bring in Nevada State Democratic Party Chair Roberta Lang. Thank you.
Now, watch the difference in Tamron Hall's tone with this woman, and you tell me which side she's on and which side MSNBC is on.
So much, Madam Chairman, for joining us. Let me get your assessment of, again, a laundry list of things that I just spoke with Nina Turner about. First of all, what can you tell me happened at this Bernie Sanders campaign headquarters where this alleged firing of a gun and that shots were fired at this office? What do you know about that in Nevada?
Honestly, the first time I heard about it was 10 o'clock last night. I had never heard about it before, so
Okay, so you heard about it 10 o'clock last night. Now, what did you do after you heard about it?
can't really comment on it. I didn't know anything about it.
When you heard about it, were you not concerned enough to, I guess, inquire if there was a police report, even if it was last night? You are the state Democratic chairwoman, and if this happened at a campaign headquarters in your state, I would assume that there would be some curiosity or concern enough to at least have someone in the office call.
Well, look, it happened at 10 o'clock last night. Our office isn't open yet. I haven't had...
Oh, so because your office isn't open yet, you are not obligated to inquire as to what happened. And I'm pretty sure that you had a contact number for Bernie Sanders or some of his top surrogates, but you didn't feel necessary to inquire last night. And let's go further, because you still haven't inquired about it.
Any opportunity to take any steps forward. Look, I am concerned. I'm concerned not only for my safety and what has happened to me, but for the safety of everyone involved. And so, we certainly will make a call and assess, and talk to them about what happened. But
so apparently you weren't concerned enough to do anything, and hopefully after you get through with this interview, you'll be concerned at that point to make a call. But up until this point, from 10 o'clock last night till it's approximately 8 o'clock, actually, Nevada, yeah, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, you didn't feel concerned enough to contact the Sanders campaign to get any information from them. Yeah, you're really concerned.
I would have assumed if something like that happened to them, they would have called the party and said, do you know anything about this? And we have never heard anything from them.
Let me play a little bit of what was revealed yesterday, this threat that you received. I believe we have the audio of it. Let's play that, please.
Hi, Roberta Lane. This is a citizen of the United States of America, and I just wanted to let you know that I think people like you should be hung in a public execution to show this world that we won't stand for this sort of corruption.
You stupid. What the hell are you doing? You need to step down from that position because you are bad for America and bad for the Democratic Party.
So these are anonymous. They were left on your voicemail. Is it fair to expect Senator Sanders to have to apologize, acknowledge, take responsibility for individuals that there's no proof that he even knows or that are even really his supporters?
Absolutely, it's his responsibility. Look, when he has a senior campaign staff person be at a rally and talk 2 days before the convention and talk about taking down the Democratic Party and taking down the state convention, they're talking about unity now. Nina Turner was talking about unity. 2 days before our convention, they were talking about tearing us apart. And then they go into the convention, and look, you can talk all you want about the procedures. The fact of the matter is Hillary Clinton had more people in the room. They turned out 98% of their delegates for the state convention.
See, now that's a bunch of bullshit, because what was going on was that people were still coming into that convention late into that 8-hour period that everybody was in that room, and they were still registering that they were legal delegates. So for her to say that Hillary Clinton was able to outwork Bernie Sanders, that is a bunch of bullshit. In every single caucus, Bernie Sanders has at least worked evenly with Hillary Clinton, if not outworked her. So now, all of a sudden, in this particular state convention, Hillary Clinton has outworked Bernie Sanders. That's bullshit. The previous individual conventions, Bernie Sanders outworked her, and he was able to acquire a whole bunch of additional delegates. So her statement is full of shit.
Bernie Sanders had 1,000 eligible alternates. They turned out 500. They left almost 500 delegates on the table. That's why he lost. It had nothing to do with the procedures and what happened during the day.
That's bullshit. You call for a voice vote according to a lot of people there, the voice vote went against what you wanted, and then when they asked for a head count, you cut off debate. So don't, come in here with the bullshit about Hillary Clinton's people outworked them, and they were ticked off about the procedure when you corrupted the procedure.
Happened is they were out organized by the Clinton campaign.
That's a lie.
When you look at what happened these past 48 hours, especially since the weekend, the question is, and our first read political team put it this way, defying Sanders threatens Democratic unity. Is Senator Sanders threatening the unity of the Democratic Party? And again, pointing out you are the state Democratic Party chair. You are one of the leadership. He believes already siding with Hillary Clinton here.
Look, I am an unpledged delegate to the National Convention.
You may say you're unpledged, but based on your actions, you're pledged to Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely think this threatens our unity. Look, we should all be talking about what we're going to do together, what we are going to work together, whomever the nominee is. We're going to support that person. We're going to come together. And for the third term in a row, we're going to get a Democrat in the White House. That's what we should be talking about.
Nevada State Democratic Party Chair Roberta Lang, thank you so much for your time. We greatly appreciate you joining.
Okay, so again, just going to tell you that this particular segment with Roberta Lang only lasted approximately 5 minutes, where Tamron Hall did approximately 15 minutes with Nina Turner. Nina Turner's questions were much more attacking, much more biting, and Roberta Lang's questions were basically rollover questions. MSNBC is the damn shame. That's why a lot of people are basically going to online channels in order to get good information, I guess real information, I guess a more progressive slant on the issues, rather than obviously Fox is going to be all the way to the right, CNN is Fox Light, and MSNBC basically is center, and now, used to be left until they got rid of a bunch of guys like Ed Schultz, etc., and now they're leaning, they're center leaning right. We need to have a change. A change needs to occur, and we need to be able to get information regarding topics of importance to us, both from the right, which they have their place, if you are right-leaning, but we also need someone who is legitimately and specifically left-leaning, so that we can take that information, put the two together, and then make an informed decision.